Okay, I've been using the PBO masking fluid. This is our actual painting that we're going to do. I've been using the PBO masking fluid, and I've gone over with y'all how to do this before, but I thought I'd mention several things. One of the techniques that I'm using here is I'm kind of making some grass that's going to lap up over the cow, and I do this. Whoops, there's a spill. Just by, this is that angled end of the brush here. And I dip it down in here kind of deep, and I just kind of scumble around like that. No problem here, that wipes right off. See this drop? The worst thing I can do is try to wipe that up. I'm glad I made that. I did that just for y'all. Never dip a brush in your masking fluid unless it's wet. The brush is wet. And this is in the soapy water, of course. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in some of these spaces down in through here with, again, some kind of grassy like strokes. But I want to, at some place in the cow color. And something about like that, because I don't want the cow color to come way down here in between the grass. It has to stop somewhere. So I'm trying to give it kind of a rough edge to stop. And then I've got these little grassy projections that hopefully will look good. Hopefully. Okay, so I've done that. Oh, the other thing I did was that for the most of the time when I did my painting with the little brushes, I used a bottle cap to pour a little masking fluid out into so that I didn't have to leave the lid off the jar. Okay, so what else was I going to tell you? Let's see there. I'm trying to make sure I got them here in line. So if you look at your photo, you will see again there's like little highlights on the top of the ears and around the tops of the heads and on the top edge of the horns. And then you'll see this part here in this part of the head, there's a very uneven area here. So you want to be careful that you don't make just a steady state line, that you make it's thicker right there and way thinner right here out on the tip. I also put in this little area here, not because it needed masking so much as that I keep accidentally covering too much of that up. So I just did that to protect myself. Another thing that you will see is that I did decide to mask out my highlights on the cow's back. And I drew a little light pencil line here in the shape that I wanted the highlight to be. So when one of the things you'll discover is that when you put masking fluid on a pencil line, I think even on these dark lines here, and that later when you pull the masking fluid up, the line will come away with it too, or at least be a whole lot lighter. So what I try to do in these areas is cover the pencil line with the masking fluid because it's going to pull that line up and we'll just have a nice white area there. Okay. I did mask out their little stars too, you know, a few little places like here around the nose, mouth area. There's like a little light area there. You can see it right here, here, and here. And that kind of adds to the look of a cow because most of them are lighter around there for whatever reason. For the next step, you're going to want to have your value study out. We're going to use these value studies. You could also work from your photo, but I think the value study will help you. Well, I think it'll help a lot to compare. I'll show you as we do it. Okay, so now I got to take a break because that has to dry. By the way, don't dry your masking fluid with a hair dryer. Let it dry naturally. After it's dry, you can use a hair dryer when you're on your watercolor paint, but don't dry the actual masking fluid with the hair dryer because it may not want to come out of the paper if you do. Okay, here we go again. I tried to turn this at my iPad in a different direction to get a better view for you, but it doesn't work. This is probably the best I can do. So, I have an iPad propped up on an easel, so we're limited here. That's just cerulean. I thought I would put in the very, very palest of skies rather than leave it totally white, but I want the very palest of skies. You probably can't even see that going down. The thing is that when it's dry, it will show a little bit. And you could paint right through the trees with this. Lots of water in this mix. We're not worried about clouds. You put clouds in here, it'll just distract. And they won't add to the painting. They'll take away from the painting. Okay. This is on dry paper. Oh, well, that's enough of that. That was easy enough, wasn't it? Okay, so now let's get some dark in these trees. I want a good, strong dark in this picture. I have got burnt umber out here. There it is. I've got a lot of burnt umber out here. I want it to be pretty strong. I hate to use the word thick when talking about watercolor, but thick would be nice. I also have some indigo. So let's just see. This is dry paper, of course. And I want to put on a lot of color. This is, even though this is on the thick side, or let's call it creamy. Someone used to call this creamy. So you could see I'm laying a lot of color in there. Well, that would be a pretty boring tree, wouldn't it? And I want to be real careful around this horn. I've got masking on one side of it. I could use a smaller brush there because I don't want to cover up this horn. Give it some kind of tree-like shape, bottom shape there. And then let's just go over and dip up some of the indigo and float it in here a little bit. And we're going to mess with that some more as it dries to give it a little texture. But while we're at this, I'm going to cover up that horn. Whoop, there, I got a little bit of splatter down there. I'm just trying to kind of transition the edge of the tree. Maybe it's got some roots sticking out, but it's kind of nice. Just have a little something there. Maybe that's a little too strong. Oh, now it's perfect. Okay, so I gotta wipe this off because the back of this paper is good. So I'm gonna wipe that off and scoot this over so that this is where you can see it. Yeah, and we'll do the same thing. A lot of color. And this may not be dark enough. We may add some more darks into this later on. Oops. And you could leave some twinkles if you wanted. I meant to leave, well, I got a couple of twinkles over there. It's got kind of a funny bulge there at the side I gave it. Sometimes I do these things a little too fast. So I'm just scooping up a lot of paint on that brush like that. And I might need to turn this way so I can see what I'm doing. Well, that's not going to look like grass there. Let's just fill that in some. And then let's do the same thing. Let's give this a little splatter. And I'm covering up. I'm trying to do this without covering things up on the camera. What I'm trying to do here is not get spatters on my cow. But obviously I'm going to get on the little ones, aren't I? There. Just some little bit. And that's about transition. I've got some little spatters out over here that really don't bother me. I could blot them and make them weaker, but I'm not going to try to get rid of them. They're not hurting anything. They might even help later. So let's see. We're waiting for this to kind of start to dry a little bit. Let's take some of that indigo, float in here. Definitely want it darker in the middle. Another color that you could use when you're doing this is you could use some ultramarine. That's pretty good too. Just kind of charge that in there. Let it float around and do its thing. Ooh, well, that's pretty strong. That's almost too wet. See, it's too much water in it. Okay, we're just going to let that have a happy little time. And I'll be back in about 2 minutes. So what I'm doing here was waiting for the paint to start drying so I could add a little water into it and see if I could get some back runs. I've got some nice texture in there too. Not that the texture should matter much because this is really about the cows, but you know, it's kind of nice to monkey with it a little bit. We're going to lift a little bit of a highlight on the highlight side of that tree later. Okay. So now the cow, the big cow. We're gonna put some color on the big cow. So I've got, oh gee, what do I have in here? Let's start a new mix. Let's use this. I'm going to use some indigo again. My indigo's been not used much lately until it's just so hard dry, it's almost a problem. Okay, so there's some indigo and there's some brown in here. I'll just mix a little bit of brown into the indigo because I want a gray, but I'd like for it to maybe have a little bit of a bluish cast. And it needs to be really wet. I've got blue over there. How about if I just do that? Okay, I've got some darker gray and some light gray. Okay, let's try this. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom where the grass is. And I'm going to kind of fill in some of these spaces at the, you know, where we're meeting, where the cow meets the grass, so to speak. And I'll just pull it up this way. And again, I'm working really, really wet. I'm pretty much going to cover the whole cow except for what's masked. You know, if you find a spot or two where you want a little more gray, fine. Now here's the thing. Remember I said you're going to need your value scale. That's a pretty nice value right there. This was my best value scale. I did several. Okay, well, that looks pretty light. I'll show you something though later. You'll see. So I'm painting very wet. And here's one of the things that gets a little bit depressing about working with this PBO. It's colored, and it's a greeny gray color, and it's pretty near the same color as the same value as what I'm putting down, which just makes it look so blah that you feel like you're getting nowhere. Now I'm going to paint around the nose and mouth. And that's where I got to be careful, because I was really sloppy with these value studies. But I'd like to get that really right. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a smaller brush. And see, I have time to go pick up a smaller brush because I am working so very, very wet. And that gives me time. Oh, I forgot to tell you the other thing to do. Well, because I didn't do it yet. All right, so we're just painting over the eyes and everything. By the way, can you see that I used a little bit of ink and outlined the eyes there? That would be very helpful to you later if you were to do that. Don't use a gel pen. I used a gel pen, and then I went back, and much later after I thought it was really dry, and it still smeared a lot. So, not on this one, but I did it before and learned the hard way. I'm good at learning the hard way. Now I'm trying to be careful not to get too much brown out of that tree onto this horn. Sophie thinks I'm talking to her. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of Queen Coral. Let's just put it there, kind of weak. Let's see what this does. And you know, I never know for sure like that that's right until I put it on and see what happens. We're going to put pink in the horns. Because there is a lot of pink in the horns. And that's because there's a rich blood supply in there that is helping to cool the cow. Mark going there, which doesn't matter because all this is going to get dark brown on it too. So there. I wonder if I'd like any in the face. Well, I guess we could put a little bit. Oh no, never mind. We're not going to do that yet. Okay. So here is our cow, and I'm going to let the cow dry, and then I'm going to reevaluate. Okay, let's take a look at what we've got here. So what did I do with those little punched out things? Well, I guess we won't take a look at that. All right. So I did this brilliant job of painting around the nose and mouth. Only I didn't intend to do it yet. I intended to cover that with this same mixture. So this is dried now. Okay, I had meant for all of this to get the gray. All right, now, oh, here they are, and I need them. Okay, let's see if we can see that. Yeah. So looky here. Here's the lighter shade, which we have here. In fact, this is a little bit lighter than that. It's pretty much the same value between here and here, which I thought that was acceptable. Oops, it's stuck to the, okay, here. Oh, now when we look at the difference between up here, okay, any of those places up here, and down here, is that on camera? Yeah. You can see there's quite a bit of difference in value. Can y'all see that? There's quite a bit of difference in value. So what I want to do is I want to deepen this part down in here. And I'll point out that that is unlike my value study where I didn't darken that and then I made dark grass. So what I'm going to do, I've got my stronger mixture on this side. Let's see, maybe it doesn't even need to be stronger, because if I add it all together, that'll do. You know, I've got a fairly light gray, but if I put it on top of what I already have, and so some areas here are considerably darker than other areas. There's a little darker fold right here. And then I can soften some edges as I go along. And here I'm being a little bit free with my edges, because I think that that's more in keeping with this animal. Oh, okay, here, okay, right in here, something that I neglected to draw in. This is a bit of a leg showing up under there. And then here's the tail right here. And so we're going to want to shade some of those areas more. Let's see. Well, maybe too late. I may have to dry it before I can do that. I want a little bit deeper shadow right here. And there's maybe a little bit more shadow right through here. You know, you just look at your animal and see what you think. That's the beginning of that. I don't need to do any shaping up here on the head. yet. I wonder if I might just put a little bit more gray on the underside of the horn. I'm going to get a lot of brown on the face and then lift part of it off later. But I should call them antlers, the horns, are going to get treated differently. So I'm just wetting the edge there and softening it like that. Okay. I think that's going to do it. Oh, well, one thing we could do, we could go ahead and put a little bit of a highlighted edge on this side. Don't tell anybody that wasn't Viva. Here's Viva. Oh yeah, see, now that feels more like a tree. And see, you can do this unevenly, and here we can pull a little color over the twinkle, but not too much. Oh, okay. And what else we could do, I'm just picking up more real dark brown. It's brown and black mixed together. Good. Make this part a little darker right in through here, because I want this to be a really dramatic dark area. Oops, I don't want to cover up too much twinkle. There, that's good. Maybe something along those lines. You know, just make a little more of a tree out of it. Okay. Hope that was on camera. Yeah. Okay, that's enough for this time around. Okay, I should turn it like that so you can see it. I could turn it this way to paint it, maybe. Nah, it wouldn't be any better. Okay, so the thing is, it looks kind of dismal right now. You just have to know that other steps are going to make it a lot better. And it's going through the teenage stage. But this is right on track for what I think it needs to be right now. So, bye.